Hello. This is not Campfire Stories, but instead this is going to be sort of similar to the Power Podcast, where I talk with a guest. This is actually going to be one that I'm going to do now, talking to someone who's just now seen a series that just came out recently, just finished a couple of weeks ago. But at some point, we'd like to talk about it on the Power Podcast. So I've got Cookie with me, aka CookieSwagga.
Yep.
Yep. You just, based on recommendations from most of the people from Arcane Gate, myself included, finished Invincible.
Yes. Yes, I did.
So.
And I have a lot of anger and confusion that I'm about to unleash onto you.
Good. So, just a rundown. I know very little from the comics. I have read some stuff. I've watched the series once. But I have been speaking about it non-stop with my brother and a couple of my friends. So, fire away.
Okay, it's more like you're about to hear me rant, and you're probably not going to know any of this. But, okay, so episode 1, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a coming-of-age story. This is going to be pretty dope. And then whenever it was like heading towards the end, I was like, wow, there's still a lot of time left on this. What's going on? And then the heroes of the globe start getting their cuts in. I was like, oh, yeah, I saw them earlier. They seem pretty cool. I hate what you've done to me. So, they get absolutely murdered. Murdered!
So for those who don't know what we're talking about, Invincible is an animated show that was written by it was a comics book series originally, written by the same guy who wrote The Walking Dead, both comic and TV series. It's about a kid called Mark who he is the son of a superhero called Omni-Man, and at the age of 17 he finally finds out that he has powers. This is all in the first episode, and it is kind of like a coming of age story, sort of, as he finally grows into his powers and he starts attempting to become a superhero whilst also dealing with high school, and it's quite an interesting thing because it is sort of a DC stylish world, and
yeah. The Heroes of the Globe were not like a nod to the Justice League.
Yes, the Guardians of the Globe.
Oh yeah, this is cool.
Darkwing, aka Batman, and then Immortal, who's I guess kind of supposed to be like Superman. Kinda?
Yeah, kind of. Again, we don't know much about them because
they get
dead as hell.
Spoiler alert, they get completely deaded at the end of the first episode, which, by the way, I loved the way that they pulled that back. It's like, as he said, wait, hang on a second, there's like a good amount of time left on the timestamp, like what's going on? And then it just keeps going, and you're like, where is this going? And then all of a sudden, just
Omni-Man's there throwing swings, and I'm like, oh, what?
So, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it turns out that, like, Omni-Man is... Omni-Man is from another planet called Viltrum, and he is a Viltrumite. Basically, they're kind of like Kryptonians, except from they have powers, even on their own home planet. Super strength, flight, super durability, incredible speed. But their flight is based on any vertices, so they don't have to kick off of anything and build up speed, because they literally can fly off of anything, which is pretty cool.
Also, spoiler alert, they're basically Nazis. At least from what I'm understanding, right?
Kinda. They're not as fascistic. They don't care what your beliefs are. They don't care where you come from. What they care about is that they let everyone else know that, look, we have powers. We're more powerful than you. We're better than you. We're more advanced than you. So therefore, do as we say. So they're less Nazis. They're more slave drivers.
Russian? Oh.
I guess
Oh.
I guess you could sort of say the difference between the Nazis and sort of slave drivers are
Wait, can we say Nazis on here?
yes.
Okay.
The difference between them and sort of slave drivers are slave drivers don't really necessarily care about the races beneath them. They're just beneath them, and therefore they can still use them to work because they're not of the same equivalent society. Most of the time, anyway. Obviously, certain people still have slaves regardless of what their race are. Bad. Stay very bad. But Nazis usually believe that there was a specific master race. And I guess you could sort of put it up to the fact that, like, the Viltrums didn't really care about the concept of the master race other than they were the best. Like, they deserved to be considered gods and at the top. They didn't consider themselves to be the only ones who should be in charge of the universe. They just thought, well, since we're so powerful and since we're the best, we'll be the ones in charge of the universe, basically.
So they do think they're the best, and that they should be in charge.
Yes, yeah. They don't. It's a really weird thing. I don't know if calling them space Nazis is necessarily the correct analogy, but yes, they are very bad. Like, very, very bad.
Space America.
Maybe? I'm not gonna have that hot take. You know what? I can say this. It's like Space England Empire back when we were invading everywhere.
Oh yeah, I placed my flag here, so you're mine now.
It doesn't feel like conquest until you've put your flag in someone else's shit.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 1, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I don't know, like, it's a good premise, but I don't. Rexplode. I'm going everywhere right now because I just watched it and I have so much confused. That's why. So anyway, Rexplode, Adam Eve, the fuck's going on there?
Yeah. Okay, so
Team.
Yeah.
Incorporates duplicate. She can duplicate herself. Haha, funny.
Yeah.
Rexplode, who can charge things with his power and make them explode.
Yes.
Adam Eve, who's basically a god.
Pretty much. She can alter any factors of molecular structures of anything, including the fact that she can generate energy that also seems to be able to change molecular structures of atoms. Basically a goddess or a god, or however you want to say it, really. You got Robot, who is definitely a robot.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He's not. I'm also confused about him. But we'll come back to that. So Adam Eve meets Mark in his superhero outfit after a huge traumatizing experience with them whenever the Martians invaded?
No, they're Flaxans. That's it. They're from another dimension that, like, time operates differently. It's very confusing.
It is. So, Mark was like, yeah, I'm going to be a hero. People die. And then Team rolls up onto the scene, right?
Mm.
The whole aging thing process happens, and the Flaxans ran off, like, whatever. Anyway, Mark realizes that Adam Eve goes to his school.
Yeah.
And approaches her, and she's really chill. Helps him out with the, hey, shit happens, wanna come, like, meet the group. Immediately, I could already tell that Rexplode was gonna be that guy. Whenever he was like, what are you doing with him? And she's like, we go to the same school.
Yeah, the thing is, Rexplode, so I love the voice actor. I cannot remember the voice actor's name off by heart. I'll be looking it up whilst potentially you speak about something else in a second. But what I want to say was his as you said, he can charge things. He's basically a less powerful Gambit from X-Men.
Yes.
He can charge things with like pyrokinetic or pyrotechnics, and basically he can make things explode. He is the sort of super aggressive, overly cocky like guy. He is quite aggressive to Mark because that he like him and Atom Eve are supposed to be a thing, and then he kind of uses that as an excuse to then cheat on her with Duplicate whilst she's like duplicated herself like 3 times, and that sort of blows up, and they have like this whole breakup, and there's like a a whole thing going on between them where they they separate.
And my thing was, what the fuck, dude? Adam Eve is hot. Why wouldn't you just be like, all right, I'm not really comfortable with the situation that's going on. It was such a rush job. No offense, like
No,
the show was pretty good, but
it
was just
definitely was.
It was like they meet Mark. For some reason, he's jealous already. The funeral of the heroes of the globe happens. Adam Eve comes back to him, screwing and duplicate in the team base.
Yes, and they even blew off the Guardians of the Globe funeral to basically like bang in their like hideout, and like the worst line is that he goes like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd be back so soon." It's like, "Oh, I thought you said that you weren't feeling well." I was like, "Yeah, no, I just couldn't make it," and she goes, "Look, I just really need you right now. I just thought I'd come back early and we can spend some time." And then all 3 of the different Kates come out, and part of me thinks that like I'm like, oh, dude, no, and then another part of me is like, if you knew someone who could duplicate themselves, you would ask them to do that. I'm not saying that what he did was right because cheating piece of shit, but. We've all had the Naruto like clone or the duplicate clone power conversation, especially when it comes to that kind of relationship.
Yeah, but it was just Also, I think that's different because that sounds like the comic. In the show, Duplicate is the one that comes out of the shower and is like, "Oh, you're back early." Like she's nervous as shit.
Yeah, and he isn't. He kind of is and isn't. He's sort of like, oh shit, I didn't think you'd be here. But then it's like, well, you told me that you weren't together. But he does say this isn't what it looks like. So he's the one who does instigate the belief of he kind of knows that he shouldn't have been doing this.
Yeah. So that's just me being like, dude, what the fuck? What do you mean?
Jason Mantosa? Tozcast? I can't. What? His name is Jason, but I cannot pronounce his last name. But I absolutely love him. He plays
the voice actor.
Yeah, the voice actor.
Okay.
Jason. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that because I tried it a second ago and I completely failed. Yes, they had a great cast for this. In all honesty, they had some amazing people. I absolutely loved that. They had is it Stephen Young or Stephen Yen for it? The guy who played Glenn in Walking Dead.
Yeah.
He's so good, and obviously, the guy who played Omni-Man was fantastic. I have to genuinely believe that this is probably his best performance. I know that a lot of people loved him as J. Jonah Jameson, but yeah, I still to this day believe that he did way better in this than he has done in almost any single thing. Don't at me.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I really like the voice actors. They were all really good, but the art or whatever.
J.K. Simmons, by the way. Sorry.
Oh yeah. But the art for the show is also like it wasn't terrible, but there were some things where I'm like, yeah, we can tell where the money went. The voice actors.
Okay, I do. I knew this was going to come up, but I didn't think it would come up so soon. So, it is an animated show.
Well,
Don't let that ruin it for any of you guys who want to watch it. I don't know why you'd still be listening to this because we are like spoiler heavy at the moment. But yeah, it is very like all of the different characters are designed very interestingly. They're iconic in their own right, mostly because some of them are definitely pastiches of other characters from other shows or comics. But they're still very iconic and they're still very interesting. However, there are a
yeah,
few moments in the animation that they definitely cut the budget here. they tightened up their
yeah. Don't
belts.
get me wrong. Like, I like the styles when they're not fucking moving,
Mm.
but the flight sometimes, like the one where Mark is like flying at one point, all I could think of is
What, in
like,
episode 1?
this, huh?
In episode
Oh,
1
I
when he's
think
flying.
so.
Yeah, where it looks like
Yeah.
he's still. Like, he's still, but they just sort of like lift him up and move him down, almost like as if he's like on a like it's a still image that they're lifting up and down on a stick.
Yes. It very much reminded me of, I don't know if you ever saw it, but Stanley's Heroes. Like there was a TV show where Stanley,
Yes.
yes, yes. Okay. And one of the endings was like people have to do their flying, like how they would fly. And
Mm.
it definitely reminded me of one dude who's like just the worst, just holding out his arms and just eel. I'm a flying squirrel.
pretty, pretty much. I will say this for it though, like you've seen it. Like as I said, like I think Rex was too much of like an unbearable asshole, but he was still funny. I feel like a lot of the time that he did or said things, he was very funny. However, that does not only help the character, but it also hurts the character as well. Because when I go, oh, I love it because he's in the room, because I then expect him to say or do something funny. If he then tries to do something serious or tries to do something where he has his own character arc, I'm like, oh, good for him. But the second that he does something funny, I'm like, ha 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 ha. I remember more of the funny stuff than I do any of his serious moments that he's actually trying to be a human being, and that for a character might potentially hurt it. Like one specific scene that I'm not going to get into until you're ready to talk about it, but we'll move back to that anyway. So yeah, that was the first couple of episodes. What was
Yeah,
anything specifically big? Any particular things like questions or things you want to get off your chest?
the twins.
The Mauler twins, yes, yes. Go on.
uh, they're like stupid smart or smart stupid. I don't know how to describe them other than how, like, they're villains, but are they villains or do they just do this for shits and giggles? I don't know.
So
and
they
and they're
no, go
talking about, oh, sorry.
on. No, I was just going to say they are villains. Like they are legitimate villains.
No,
They're
no.
they're
Yeah,
they're like
they're
definitely
murderers. Don't get me
smart
wrong.
in the terms of how they make their things. They're definitely smart because basically the Mauler twins are like these blue mutant guys who it's one dude who clones himself only once, and the two of them then go out and do things together. When one of them dies, the other one then clones themselves, and then again they're back to square one. They're quite durable, quite tanky, and quite strong, with the potential of a healing factor, because one of them gets shot in the eye and is fine a couple of months later. Like,
Hmm.
they kind of gloss over the fact that this guy gets shot in the eye and, like, it looks like he's actually lost the eye, and then, like, later on he's fine, like, in the prison.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
the other one, like, drilled a hole into his arm, remember?
yeah, yes, no, he did, yeah. And he seemed fine. That seemed like an injury that you could eventually shrug off. Like, like someone getting a cut on their hand or something, like, That seemed like something
Yeah.
that he could have shrugged off because his body was a bit more durable. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit the guy who's obsessed with every single knit and grit piece of what a power is or what abilities someone has. Maybe I'm looking too deep into that.
Yeah.
But
Could
yeah,
have just been something that they like shrugged off or whatever.
Yeah, no, I definitely. What was it? I think Kevin Michael Richardson is the guy who voiced them. He's played in quite a few things. He has. He's a really good voice actor, to be honest. He's also one of the things is that like he plays in a lot of different things, like a lot of different animated shows. But he did really well with the fact that like in this thing, like they're two set. Again, it's one dude who's just cloned himself, but you find out that, which is an existential nightmare. He makes a clone that's a perfect clone of himself in each and every single way, and then their memories are copied and duplicated and infused into that other clone. So they're perfect in such a way that both of them don't even know which is the original one, even when there is good proof that there is the original one. But they cannot mark one of themselves or show too much of an obvious point, because apparently that, quoting the show, that creates enough problems as it is if one of them knew who was the original and who was the clone. So they both have exactly each other's same memories, which is freaking crazy.
It is. I don't know. They're just like one of those villains that I'm like, okay, so they're important to the story. We don't know much about them though, besides the fact, eventually they help. That whole sequence of like, first of all, robot, sketchy as fuck. Sketchy as fuck. I still don't know what he's up to. You know?
Okay, so you find out that Robot isn't Robot, and then you find out that he's like sort of like this poor guy who was born really oddly, and he's sort of a mutant human
Genius.
He's a genius, yes, but at the sort of thing of the what cost sort of question, and then he makes a deal with the Mauler twins to make him a cloned body that he bases off of Rex's DNA, and he asks them to clone it to a specific age, which is like 14 or 15. And then the reason is so that then he can grow. He can find a cure for. He can find a cure for Monster Girl, who has a curse that she can turn into a monster, but each time she de-ages. And right now she's 26, but she's in the body of a 15 or 14-year-old. So he kind of has feelings for her. So he then makes a clone, which again, inevitably, as I said, you don't transfer the consciousness. It's just that clone now has a copy of your memories. The original died, and then this new one takes on all of the responsibilities of the original one as a clone of Rex, a Rex original, but with the mind of I think is his name Rudy? I think
his name is Rudy.
Yeah. So, and they're all just like, okay, I can't deal with this kind of stuff, and I'm like, at first I think they're being a bit unreasonable, because if you don't know what this guy had to go through for 32 or 34 years, and he just wanted. I thought
it was just 30.
I think he said like, no, you're a teenager. He's like, no, I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm a 30-year-old genius in the body of a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. What do you think about that moral quandary?
So on one hand, I'm like, I understand Rex is like, first of all, I don't like Rex, so I was already like, eh. But if it had been me, but if he explained it, I would also have been like, okay, yeah, that sucks. Okay, you do you. But at the same time, didn't ask for permission.
No.
So I would be on the mindset of, good for you, but also at the same time, you could have just asked.
Yes.
But I'm also not a Rex asshole. I am an asshole, but I'm not Rex level of he probably would have just been
I
like, "No, you freaky fuck."
I love the fact that he says what he says, and to be honest, I have to agree with him to some degree, where he actually like goes, "Hey, stop using my like body, like my childhood. You're already ruining my already ruined childhood, and that's saying something because my childhood was pretty effed up." And it's like, yeah, I can kind of get that. If you see a younger version of yourself living another life with another person's memories and potentially other kind of almost soul, it would kind of be freaky, like, to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like I said, that's what I'm saying. Like I wouldn't be completely comfortable with it, but at the same time, if because it seemed like Rudy explained what he was trapped in.
Yeah.
At that point, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, that's fucked," you know.
Yes.
So I don't know. I just feel like I would be able to, because you have in the world right now there is someone who looks like you but is, living another life, because, Earth is billions of people and we all kind of look similar, and there's a few of us like with people who look like us but in different parts of the world,
I mean, for
right?
crying out loud, there's like an entire like subreddit of people who believe that there are actually time travelers because there are people back in like certain time periods that look like famous people. For instance, like there's a guy who looks like Leonardo DiCaprio who's from like the 1850s, or there was a guy in the like late 1800s who looked like Jay-Z, and it's like, yep, these guys are time travelers, and it's like, yeah, okay, sure. So it's like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. So I could myself, I could probably, you know tell the difference, because he's a genius. He's not going to act like Rex. He's probably not going to keep his hair like that. He's not going to be him, if that makes sense.
yeah, you're just using a template shell. In all honesty, like, to some degree, it's fairly flattering, which I think he does kind of say is like, despite the fact that this is pretty flattering, it's also creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. I do have a question though, which is, well, actually, no. The best answer to any questions is that the reason that he does that is because it's like, oh well, yes, I have grown quite fond of you, Monster Girl, and I noticed that you like you have a certain like connection with Rex. In other words, you like Rex, and I was hoping that you'd
Or
like me if I looked like Rex. And it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's a whole lot of stuff that I need to unpack there. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, that I so I'm with Rex on that, because yeah, she's 24, but or 20 whatever. She's 20 something, but she looks like a kid. Like that no, that's a case. That's a case. It's like when we're anime people try to uh defend lolicons or whatever.
Don't even. I don't think
Don't
there's no
You're
point.
not ready for this
There's
fight.
no point in that argument. It's. I think the biggest problem that I have with this kind of argument is like, oh, we'll offset the balance. Whereas in this story, it doesn't bother with that. It's because she even says like any people who are interested in dating me are either way younger than I am. In other words, meaning like 15, 14, or they're on some kind of register, meaning pedophiles. So it's that
Yeah,
thing of instantly, it's just kind of cutting it short of like, look, unless if you are the specific age, yeah, that makes, if you are the specific age that she is physically, fair enough. But if you're not, yeah, you kind of need to back off and calm down a little. Uh,
yeah. No, I was just saying, like, when Rudy or Robot first warned Rex about monster, or don't
oh yeah.
get, yeah, and Rex was like, "Do you see her? Do you?" So that I will. be like, yeah, I don't know why Robot was so worried about Rex because, yes, she's 20 something, but she looks 14 and we don't wanna.
Yeah,
Nobody wants.
I do like that Rex is like, yeah, I'm not touching that. Like, also, I think one thing that I would actually like to see if since Rex they tried to sort of tone him down on the last episode, I wouldn't mind if what they did on the last episode or going from the last episode is him actually being like still keeping his sort of arsehole personality, but to any of people of the team actually seeming like as if he's gaining and keeping more of a respect for them rather than people respecting him the way that he deals with things, him actually respecting the others, because the way that he treats Black Samson and the way that he treats like Monster Girl as well as Robot, who is his team leader, he treats them like utter crap. And I guess you could say it's even worse for Shrink Ray, by the way, dumbest one on the team, because the way that he treats every single one of them, he treats them like basically making fun of them, being an asshole, being really rude, or completely ignoring them. In Shrink Ray's specific one, he doesn't even talk to her or allow her to even really have any dialogue between the two of them, because he just
Yeah.
doesn't really. She doesn't operate on his radar. She's nothing to him, which I think him actually having decent human interactions with all of the members and actually being more of a team leader, I think he's technically the weakest link in the terms of his teamwork. Like, definitely Black Samson is bad considering he's like, I've been here before, I'm better than all of you. But I feel like he still, to some degree, sometimes does go into line when he's at least expected something from him. Whereas, like, Rex doesn't even bother. So maybe in the next season, who knows? We might see him grow, or we might just see him stay exactly the same. What
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what did you think on what did you think on
We're already in spoiler territory. Just go. Just say it.
okay, so we come to okay, so we come to obviously the graphic parts of it. So at the end of like the first episode, they show off
Oh my god.
all of them getting completely murdered in such horrific ways. In the end of, I think, episode 4 or 5, no, it's definitely 5, we see Mark get completely obliterated by Battle Beast?
I think that's its name.
Trademark, patent pending. And we then see, well, the final episode, which we'll come to. So we'll talk about these 3 big events one by one. So first episode, at the end of it, Omni-Man kills the entire Guardians of the Globe, or entirely annihilates them.
Oh my god. Can I just say though, the worst one for me was Red Dash.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that, because that for me, that I was like, no, that. I mean, to some degree, it is kind of funny to just see that, and like you see him punching and punching and punching and punching, but at the same time, my first reaction was like, no, this is awful, this is horrible.
I didn't find, like, I don't know if I would have to rewatch it to find it funny, because as he's punching, because he's going so fast and he's trying to get away, he ends up breaking his hands
and he
while
keeps
still
going.
punching.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible. So red, what is it? Red Riot? No, red.
It was Red Dash.
Red Dash. That's it. He's a speedster, so similar to the Flash or similar to Quicksilver, and he states, because all of them get like a little backstory or a little thing just to explain who they are, but not enough for us to actually really feel connected to any of them, except from Red Dash, who's the first one. He has a girlfriend or a wife, I think, a wife?
It was a wife. Her name is Olga.
Olga, yes, because he's French and
His
she's
name is
Russian.
Joseph.
He's Joseph,
Yeah.
yes. I love this. So he's a speedster, and he actually says, like, she actually says, "Oh, you're never in the moment with me." He goes, "You don't understand. For me, I'm so impatient because for me, every second is like an hour. Every hour is like an eternity." And she's like, "Oh well, is it that bad to be around?" He's like, "No, you don't understand. I think of this power as a curse until I met you, because now I can look at you and it can feel like forever, and it's still not enough time." And that's like, damn, that's a good line. Super cheesy. Love it. They then show what
Yeah.
it feels like to him as he is having his head vice gripped by
Oh
Omni-Man as he
yeah.
experiences his own death super slowly as he's punching Omni-Man in the chest at supersonic speeds just to try and get him off him. And even when it's probably too late, his fists are still moving despite the fact that his fingers and knuckles and hands are shattered beyond repair. As his breath is drawn, his eyeballs gouged, and his brain splattered.
And that's when everything went downhill.
Everything went dark. It's like that moment in Million Ways to Die in the West. That went south so fast.
It really did, because I'm like, okay, this is fine, this is cool, this is nice, and yeah, the ending, I'm like curled up, like, what, what?
You also see the Martian, who's basically the equivalent of sort of like
Martian Manhunter.
Plastic Man / Martian
Oh
Manhunter,
yeah, yeah.
and
Although
he
the Martian Manhunter goes like, not invisible, but through stuff, and that's the other girl.
yes, Green Spectre.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh
or
my god.
Green Phoenix.
Everything went wrong. But
He
yeah,
kills
go on
all.
about Martian.
Well, you find out that like he's sort of like adopted / looking after like this homeless girl in like a derelict district, and he's sort of like training his powers in front of her because that like he's just trying to like keep her from being bored. And then he goes out and he gets killed.
Yeah, which I also want to know what the fuck happens to her. Is she okay? We never see her again.
The story clearly doesn't care about her, even though that we do. You then see the fish dude, who is basically an even more cursed version of
Aquaman.
Aquaman, because he's actually a fish guy, kinda like a reverse mermaid. And he ends up getting killed quite quickly and easily. Darkwing, basically
Oh my
Batman.
God.
Oh,
Yeah.
doesn't he get slammed into the ground? So he's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like if what I
Yeah.
imagine if you grabbed the end of a toothpaste and had the lid off and just hit it against the side of a sink.
Yeah. Yep. That is a good description, and I hate that.
Yep.
But yeah, the Green Spectre, like, her Darkwing's body is thrown at her, and for some reason, she thinks it's a good idea to go from unable to be touched to touch because she wants to hold his body.
Yes, so she can fly and become intangible. And she suddenly turns off her intangibility and then gets a fist through the skull, which is yikemadoodles.
Yikemadoodles. I'm just saying she could have lived in.
Oh no, she had the best powers to stay alive, except from. So they had the Wonder Woman who gets beaten to death by her own hammer.
Yeah. No, she wasn't beaten to death with her own hammer. He used the hammer to kill the fishman, and then he like twisted her fucking head around.
Yes, no, that's it. Yes, he twists it, and she coughs and then falls to the ground. That's it. Yeah. But then the most ironic, and we're now coming to something that I sort of wanted to get into if we ever do if we ever actually get to the Power Podcast episode, which is about the ironically named characters such as Immortal.
He was technically. He did come back.
Yes, we'll get to that in a second. So he gets killed. So the first time we ever actually see the use of Immortal and he gets killed, which he then gets brought back later because it turns out all you had to do is just reattach his fucking head. They
Yeah,
didn't think
but
to do
I
that.
yeah, they're not great, right? But I that to be fair, decapitation.
Yes, yeah, decapitation, yeah. So Omni-Man does this
Yeah,
all by himself, and he does end up going down, and then later on you
yeah,
get
they
like this.
do a number on him.
Oh yeah,
They do
like
a number.
despite the fact that he's super powerful, that was what, like 5 or 6 superheroes all at once.
Yeah,
You got
fish guy. I hate that I don't know the fish guy's like actual name.
Aquarius.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Aquarius, Green Spectre, Martian Man, Darkwing, Warrior Woman, and the Immortal, so 6.
and Red Dash, so that's 7.
Oh, the man I was about to cry over. I forgot.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I have to be honest, I definitely also agree with that. Like, he was the only one that I really felt the most bad about. Martian guy, I was more upset about the girl that he was sort of protecting, and everyone else was like, that is a shame. But
Yeah.
Red Dash was like,
Yeah, that
no!
sucks. Yeah, Red Dash. We were all like, no, come on, man, get the fuck out of there.
Live, live, live.
But yeah, so I don't know. So that happened, and I'm like, ending. I was like, what the fuck just happened? I thought we were about to see some cool mentorship.
Yeah, I think we all were. So the second one is the fight in episode 5 where Mark ends up getting a bit in over his head and he has to fight a bunch of super hit villains that were hired by a villain named Machine Head. By the way, killer auto-tune, like, for his
Yeah,
voice. That was so funny.
yeah, for real.
That was
I
brilliant.
also want to say before we go into this, Mark, hero name Invincible does not apply to this boy.
No.
Jesus Christ.
So, again, I wanted to sort of talk about that in a power podcast where we actually talk about like the importance
Oh,
of
okay,
all the
gotcha.
powers. But no, I think it is important to bring this up. I think it's important to state that he calls himself invincible because that's what his dad calls him. He said, all the kids believe all the kids believe themselves to be invincible, and that holds them back. But you actually are invincible, and that'll keep pushing you. And ironically, he does use that name. He uses that name for his superhero name, so he calls himself Invincible. And the way that it's done is that his powers are supposed to make him bulletproof, and he is quite durable. But almost every fight that he is in, he takes damage, regardless of how much or how little. He takes some amount of damage. And I think the important part about this should be that Mark has only just got his powers, and they do claim that his species get more powerful the longer they've lived. So maybe we'll see it that eventually he'll become strong enough. Maybe he needs to train, maybe he needs to get better. Maybe he needs to start learning how to fight better so that he doesn't take that. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like characters like Darkwing and Aquarius and, even in other things like, Iron Man and Captain America, they may have special abilities or special powers or special gadgets, but they're not invincible. So they need to be able to... They're not invulnerable to damage. They need to figure a way to be able to fight in certain ways that would allow them to evade and avoid being hit, but still being able to land a decent, clean one themselves. So I think Mark just needs to learn that until he's actually strong enough to be able to tank damage.
Yeah.
But yes,
And
he's
until
not
then,
invincible.
needs a new name. Yeah, needs a new name.
As Alan the alien says, I find you to be quite vincible.
Yeah. But going into the second fight, I don't know. Did he ever say his... Oh, Titan. Titan.
Yes,
That two-faced son of a bitch.
See,
Okay, no, I get it. Like, he's not a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He's just a guy trying to keep his kid alive. I get it. But he also manipulated Mark, a kid himself, to help him take down Machine Head. And the kid almost dies, and he's like, "Oh, that sucks. Good luck, kid," and it's out.
Yeah.
Oh, I just like skipped over the entire fight. We can go into it.
No,
I
no.
just
I
wanted to
think
say
it.
my piece.
No, I think it. I think no. I think it's important that you said a piece. I mean, the whole reason I wanted you on here is because I want to. I want to hear a fresh perspective from it. And no, that's 100% correct. I actually
Like,
found his powers to be quite interesting. He can keep making dermal armor made of gravel. I think it was.
I don't know if it was gravel, granite. It was some form of rock, and it is like good enough to where he can get shot and it won't pierce his skin,
Yes, and even
but
if it
it
does,
will
he can
take
just
off the
regrow
yeah.
it. Yeah, he's also quite strong. Like he's quite physically strong. Yeah,
Yeah,
I quite liked him. I liked that they sort of humanized him, and then yes, you're right. They completely have it. It was like, yeah, he's human. Fucked him over immediately. The guy who helped him, and is like, yeah, I don't give a shit now. Yeah, you can die or not. Cool. See you later. Um, but there's like a couple of really weird powers. Like there's the guy who's basically got like he looked like he had a washing machine stomach. Like he had like a door, and there was like loads of like pink tape that was flying out of his stomach and wrapping people and smacking them against walls. There was a, I think there was like a, what was it? There's a guy who could turn into what I assume is either lava or, like the hot wax from a lava lamp. I don't know what his
yeah.
power was.
I have no idea. There was just a lot going on. Uh,
The
I was just
the teen team or the guardian, the new or neo guardians of the globe come to help him, and Monster Girl, Black Samson, Rex, and Robot do get destroyed alongside them. But I think the person who is worst aware is either Monster Girl or I'd have to argue Mark, because they state that
yeah.
Mark gets a hole blown into him that's almost all the way through the other side. And again, showing himself to be quite invincible. Poor Mark,
Yeah, and
aka
like Black
Invincible.
Samson was like wrapped around, right?
Oh, okay. The moment that they break his arm, ugh, ugh,
Yeah, that was really bad. And
ugh.
I was like, at least Black Samson was trying to move and help Mark whenever he got a fucking hole in his
Shit,
fucking
right?
stomach.
Like he tried to save him, and again, this is why I was saying I think that Black Samson is probably one of my favorite ones out of all of them. But I still think that I
Because
don't
he's,
like his attitude towards the current team leadership. I think everyone kind of gave Robot a lot of crap because he was just a robot. But now that he's
yeah,
actually...
I get it. But at the same time, Black Samson has also it was said that he used to work with the Heroes of the Globe and he
Yeah, and then he
knew
lost
them
his powers.
as people.
Mm,
So
mm.
he knew who they were, that they actually cared about the world. And in Black Samson's defense, he got a bunch of puberty-stricken teens as part like team members, you know?
Who are more interested in basically either having fun with their powers or kind of just hanging out and getting completely blitzed because that they have powers that they can practically do whatever they want with, so long as they don't kill law-abiding citizens. I mean, not all of them are
Yeah.
like that, but it is kind of similar to that. I will say this though, and boo on the writers or the runners for the montage, but there's the moment where they're doing the tryouts for the Guardians of the Globe, and they do it where it's like, oh, this character v this character. 90% of it was showing how big and bad and super strong and ugly these enemies would be. Like there's like this one Chad looking dude who then gets really big and buff,
Yeah.
and he fights against either Black Samson
Adam
or
Eve.
Adam Eve, yeah, and something like that, and just completely like defeats them instantly. And then you've then got like Shrink Ray, who then fights this guy who's like basically he turns into a giant gorilla and who looks ugly AF, and then basically again gets defeated. Black Samson, I think, shows off his abilities against like a really super strong dude, or some kind of like special physical.
Nah.
What
Black
was
Samson faced off against an electricity girl, and whenever she got like
That's it.
knocked over, he helped her up.
That's it. Yes. No. What was I thinking? Oh well. Well, there's also obviously the most famous fight in that arc, which is Rex v Monster Girl getting completely dicked over, and then Invincible stopping it. And then one of my favorite bits is that he just goes, "No, no, we're cool. Oh, fuck you, Invincible. Didn't need your help."
Yeah, yeah. Didn't need that, and it's like, no, she would have killed you, but okay.
uh, yeah.
But
Uh,
back to the fight. It was Samson. Yeah, Samson though being the OTP of the group trying to help whenever he doesn't even have powers. His suit went
yes.
out,
Yes. Yeah.
showing off that he's a hero. Like you don't have to like always win, but he at least gave Mark like yeah, he got fucked up, but it took the attention off of Mark who was like dying, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and the same with what Monster Girl does. Again, Battle
She kept
Beast takes down like every member of the Guardians of the Globe, like the new guys, like defeats almost all of them. Like breaks everyone physically and spiritually, like the three strongest members,
yeah.
including
Monster
Mark.
Girl basically got brain surgery.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot about that. That was crazy. That
Yeah.
like three people nearly died because of this one battle beast, and then just checks out Mahomes just immediately like, I grow tired of this battle. I have won, but there is no one of great challenge, and then just pisses off, like just goes into a dimensional door, and we never hear from them
I
again.
think I think he only fucking did that though because the other however many that were left finally got their shit together and started working together. Like it was Duplicate,
Well, I think
Robot, Rex, and the Shrink Ray that were like, "Yeah, you're fucked now." And I'm like, "Where was this? Where was this
I th-
power of friendship?"
I
What?
think Battle Beast also realized that he had actually, or they had actually defeated both, like all three of the like strongest ones in that room, and there was nothing else left. Like, yes, you have all banded together and defeated these guys. Yes, I would have to take all of you on my own, and yes, potentially you could win. But let's be honest, Battle Beast probably could have defeated them all. But there was no challenge left, as they said. There's no more challenge left in this room. I leave a disappointed warrior, or whatever it was that they said, something along the lines
You
of
make
that.
me disappointed
That's
or
it.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
you
was.
make me disappointed, or this well makes me disappointed, or something. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, considering Invincible, Black Samson, and Monster Girl, all three of them had ridiculous capabilities of physical strength or special power, and ultimately they all get completely defeated. Like, there's nothing else left that they can do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's not much else. As for,
Yeah.
what was it? As for that fight, there's a lot of weirdness. In all honesty, like again, a lava villain and electro villain, like a sort of
A
like washing
machine washer? I don't know.
washing machine, tumble dryer, loincloth controlling dude, or towel master. I'm gonna call him until I know his name. Uh, Pretty much. And then one guy who
Yeah.
can teleport just teleports away, and also Machine Head gets defeated and or potentially killed. I can't remember if he gets. I'm pretty sure he doesn't get killed. He gets
No,
arrested. That's it.
I don't arrested, but they also undid his face and took out the chip, so I don't know if he's alive.
Maybe running at a slower capacity. Maybe.
Yeah, and like I said, Titan betrayed Rex or not betrayed Mark, uh, but was like out, and then he brings his family. This is the funniest part to me about the episode is when Titan is in the business suit and the teleporting guy is like, "Hey, boss," and then the family, the wife or whatever, sugar mama or sugar baby. I don't, you know what I'm saying. The wife and then the daughter come in while the area is still covered in like
And like
wreckage and
7 people's
blood.
blood. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's something show your daughter.
I will say this, like I think we've sort of covered that fight, but I will say this before we move on. When we go back to the robot thing real quick, I will say this: this show has an incredible way of being able to completely destroy my preconceived notions of it, or my predictions. Like, when originally I thought that they were going to do, except from one, which I'll get back to in a second. The first one that I thought was during that sort of during this sort of saga that they were doing that kind of stuff. One of the things that I thought of was, oh great, they're going to do the whole thing where like Amber is going to basically Mark's girlfriend at the time is going to do that whole thing of she's going to start talking to this guy and Mark's going to have this whole jealousy phase and he's going to get all like angsty and that's going to grant him more strength when he fights whatever is in the 6th episode. And I was like, please don't do the jealous boyfriend stuff. We've seen it a million times in every show and they don't. It's sort of like he understands that there's nothing else that he can do now. He's sort of fucked this relationship up. And
Yeah.
there's
I want to talk about the relationship later.
I mean, we could talk about it now, but I was just going to say the other thing that they completely sort of like distracted me from was originally I thought Rudy, aka Robot, was actually going to do an amalgamation thing where he was going to take the Viltrumite blood from Mark, and then he was going to take Rex's blood, and then he was eventually going to take Monster Girl's blood, and he was going to take everyone's blood who had powers, and eventually create a body for himself that could use everyone's powers. I have to say, I am so freaking glad they didn't do that, because that has been played to death. The amalgam character who cannot be defeated because he is basically the god of every power. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. I'd also be happy and fine if Rudy can't use Rex's powers regardless of whether or not he is or isn't a clone. If he can, fine, sure, but I am happy if he doesn't. As much as I am a superpower maniac, and I love that kind of stuff, I'm just glad that they didn't go down that route, because it's been played to death, where it's like, I am now the final boss. What makes you the best opponent to be the final boss? I have all your powers. Of course. But yeah, it completely destroys all my preconceived notions of it. Like, I can't easily predict certain subplots and plot lines, except from one, which again we'll get into. You wanted to talk about the relationship between Mark and Amber.
Oh my god.
Go on.
Okay, so Amber, I get it. You don't want your boyfriend to ignore you, right? Like that. I understood whenever she was like, I can't keep doing this. You keep blowing me off, because at this point she doesn't, or we thought she didn't know that Mark was a superhero.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that, girl. You do you. And all this stuff. And it's just, as a once teen, I can understand where she's coming from of that. And then the scenario at the college where they're getting attacked and she gets upset at Mark, even though at the time we thought she didn't know about the superhero stuff.
Which she did, yeah.
Yeah, she did though. And she's like, you just left us, even though she fucking knows that Invincible, who did show up, was Mark.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. And then, don't get me wrong, I understand that she couldn't handle being with the superhero, right? Like, when Mark finally is like, okay, to save this relationship, I'll tell her. And she's like, fly away, fly boy, or whatever. Yeah. I knew the whole time, or not the whole time, but I'm not stupid. And I'm like, wait, then why were you mad at him?
Okay, so like, I'm a lay some character knowledge based on what I've picked up from it. I definitely think that she had every right to be upset with him whenever he blew her off. Obviously before she knew, but after she knew, I still think that she had somewhat of a right to be annoyed with him, because at some point he needed to be able to tell her and trust her before it was too late. Because it was either that he didn't see, because as Atom Eve said, if you don't tell us soon enough, it's going to become very obvious to either you or to her that this isn't going to be a serious enough relationship where you can trust her with your secret identity. And I think Amber started figuring it out and then started realising, why hasn't he told me yet? And that's why she was annoyed. So during that time where we are still under the belief that she doesn't know and he runs away, the real reason why she's annoyed is not because that he ran away, but because that it's like, this is the perfect moment. I'll get angry at him and then he'll have to tell me. And it's that, not that she's telling him that, but it's that this is the last moment, Mark, tell me the truth. And then he just goes, I've just got help.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, they've only been dating a months.
5 months.
I think that's what they
by
said.
The end of their relationship.
Yeah. Look, quote unquote, we'll get to that too. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. But I'm just saying, it's like 5 months. I didn't even, I don't trust people easily. It took me 5 months to start talking to people at my work.
Damn.
Not, you know what I'm saying.
No,
like, no. It's, yeah, like, and as a teen, you have secrets upon secrets because you think you need secrets because you can't talk to anyone.
Yes, yeah. Your life is basically a whole treasure trove of secrets because you don't feel like anything that you tell anyone is going to be a big thing. I remember when I was a kid, people used to think that like liking comics or liking certain things was like a big secret. Like, I have to tell you a secret. I'm really into like Marvel and DC, and it's like, you're a big nerd, or so am I, or the same thing with Pokemon. Some kids would wear it on their sleeves and just be like out and about, I don't know, playing Beyblades in the middle of the park or something. But obviously in certain locations, including like when you get to a certain age, it's like stuff like that does become more of a secret. Like, oh, I'm the popular kid or I'm not so popular, so I can't ruin my already pristine, sort of relationships, or I can't ruin my already ruined ones by letting people know what sort of things I like or who I am or outing myself. So obviously that kind of thing. But being a superhero is completely different, and I do understand.
Yeah, that's another level. That's a whole different level.
However, I will say this in the defense of Amber, which you won't really often hear me defending her in this situation, because I still think that to some degree, both of them were both in the wrong. He should have trusted her, but she should have understood that, like, he's got that moral confliction because he's new to the whole thing. He's 17 and he's new to the whole being in a relationship, being a sort of adolescent person. But also he's new to not only his powers, but also being a superhero. So much so that he's had people die in his hands at the age of 17. No 17-year-old should ever have to have that sort of responsibility. I mean, like, that's it's crazy to me that we have people who, like, go into being doctors and being nurses, and they have to be on the front lines as early as anywhere between like 18 to 20 or 21, and they could see this kind of stuff happen, and they could have someone come in who's been shot or stabbed or who has had some kind of hemorrhage, and they just die in their arms. And that is a huge thing to suddenly have to carry on your shoulders. But imagine if you had superpowers, and literally if you don't save this person, it is technically your fault because you can move at the speed of sound. Like,
yeah.
That, and she's like giving him crap for not telling him. Like, he doesn't know what to trust because he keeps thinking, I keep screwing this up, and if I tell you, you're going to use that as a revenge, or if I tell you, what if it doesn't work out for us? He's freaking out, and to be honest, every person who's in a relationship at some point freaks out. However, screw Mark for believing that he could get away as the jail-free card. So, I'm invincible. I know. Here's my jail-free card.
Yeah, no.
Come on, dude. That's not going to work. That was super douchey.
But it was also another desperate attempt for him because
Again, I
I
understand
think
that.
he wants to be normal, and they're not letting him be normal.
No, no, it's
And then, okay, I want to. So the big fight is where that happened, and then Amber just runs to him and is like, "Hey, want to back together, man?" I'm like, "Wait, no, what
um,
the fuck?"
I mean, I think honestly, I think that could work only in one specific regard, and it's the Rex argument that I brought up earlier. As long as they're actually able to develop on what exactly they've learned from their previous mistakes and actually sort of go forward from where they sort of ended, because I think she needs to come to terms with he does have a life that is going to take away from a lot of very important things that normal Earth people will have. But he also needs to understand that he needs to be able to tell her the truth. He needs to be more truthful, and they both need to have more communication. I don't know if that relationship is
But
going to last, but a final thing that I was going to say about the preconceived notions and my plot predictions, which I'm glad were wrong, was the Atom Eve and Mark relationship. That you know, it was they were friends. They were really good friends, and I'm so glad that Amber never had a jealousy thing with him. I'm so glad that
yeah,
both him, Mark, and also Amber were evolved enough to either know that that was a friendship, and B, when she was actually speaking to that guy and their relationship was over, he just knew I fucked up and this is now irreversible. I can try all I want, but I'm not going to be able to do anything that's really going to save this, and he has to come to terms with that. So I think that was
I.
really good.
But here's the thing about that. I feel like she did it out of sympathy because whenever we go to that battle, that fight, like that's fucked up. So I think she's doing it out of sympathy, and I don't think that's healthy for either of them. Like you can go to him as a friend, right? But don't immediately
I
jump into a thing.
I think it's the original belief that Mark thought, if I say I'm invincible, that's my get out of jail free card, and she's just like, instead of that, she's like, I don't know how I can be a good friend to him in this moment, so maybe the best way of consoling him is being uh, a lover, a partner, or a girlfriend, however you really want to put it out there, however you want to label it. But she's like, us being just friends is not going to help him get past this. And again, maybe it's a very childish notion, maybe it's a very immature notion, but again, they're like supposed to be like teenagers, supposed to be like 17, 18. I remember like I didn't like properly mature until I was like at least like 20 or 22. Even then, still don't feel that, like, I'm nearly 25. I still don't feel all that
Yeah.
mature, like. So I
I'm
think
just saying though, I don't I have a problem with it because she got mad at him for doing the invincible thing at the last minute. I just don't see this as being a healthy development for their potential
I
relationship,
think if
you
they
know?
can, I think if they can actually truly get past what they've sort of done and gone through, and use it like a roadmap for all of the previous mistakes, and try and move out of the way of those particular previous issues, that could work. But again, it's only a 5 month relationship, so there's not that many things on that road. I
Yeah,
mean,
like don't
hell,
get me wrong,
Noland
that's what
and
I'm
Deborah
thinking.
were like together, or Barbara were. Is it Deborah or Barbara?
It's Deborah.
That's it. They were together for like, they were together almost 20 years, and there was still some shit there that still, yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, so I don't think Amber was in the wrong for being pissed off with him. I don't necessarily think that Mark was in the wrong for believing that like he could still give it a shot. I just think that it was obviously very douchey of him to attempt to believe that. So I'm invincible. But I also think that like he desperately needed to be more honest. I, I can't take either of their sides because I've both been on the receiving end of the
Yeah,
relationship of
don't get
being
me
like
wrong.
bad at
I
communication, but I've also been the person who is also like upset or angry with someone for like the wrong reasons and not even communicate with them why it was. And again, this is why I feel like I've at least developed a bit more as a person, that like I actually now overshare that kind of information, and that's the way that I can sort of, although I do always see things as more of a problem to be solved, it's just finding that key balance, and I don't know if they can actually do that. But hey, I haven't read much of the comics, so I don't know if Amber is or isn't an actual character who lasts long or doesn't last long in the story. I heard that they've changed a few things in the terms of bits and pieces to do with pacing and a few bits and pieces to do with characters, but most of this is how the comics went as and when. So, hey, cool. I don't know if I want to read the comics yet because I don't want spoilers.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Like, I'm not on Mark's side either, but at the same time, like, he's new to the superhero power thing, and I don't know. In the household, because of the Omni-Man killing someone and Deborah getting suspicious of Omni-Man, he's probably not doing so well in the household. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just all I just don't know. So yeah, you wanna set the scene for the murder spree?
Okay, so there's the third and final fight scene the third and final big bad thing that happens to poor Mark is at the end of the season, or at least the end of the end of the season. There is one big thing where Mark, well, we find out as an audience one episode beforehand that Noland, aka Omni-Man, shocker, kills the Guardians of the Globe, and the government, as well as his wife, Deborah.
Yep. Deborah, Deb.
That's it. Yeah, finds out. I don't know why I got those two confused with Barbara and Deborah. The two, the government, or at least a secret part of the government, and her find out that he killed the Guardians of the Globe, and he, again, communication issue. He doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't let anyone know why. And then he gets attacked by a kaiju monster that the government's sick on him, that he didn't end up finishing. And they drug it up, enhance it, and take out a load of its like neural paths, or fry them so that it doesn't feel any pain. And Mark comes in and saves his dad, so it's Invincible and Omni-Man fighting together against the kaiju. And then Immortal comes back to life, and then goes on the attack and finds Omni-Man and attacks Omni-Man. Omni-Man is then forced,
because he murdered him,
and the rest of his crew. He is forced to then neutralize Immortal by then cleaving him in half, and because of that, it has then been made very painfully obvious that his dad is not what it seems. Mark then starts attacking Omni-Man, and he starts unleashing these claims that his dad is under a mind control, and he needs to figure out how to do it, and eventually he states, I am clear, I'm fine, but you need to know more. And it turns out, surprise, surprise, the Viltrumites aren't good people, as we said earlier. They're kind of like space imperialists.
America.
Basically.
I'm set on space.
They're basically
I'm set on Space America.
Well, they're basically like Kryptonian Saiyans. I don't know if you get that reference.
I get the Saiyan part. Yeah, I got you.
Wait.
And the I'm smart. It's just, I'm here.
I brought up Dragon Ball Z a while back to a few people in Arcane's Gate, and I feel like I got relatively a 50-50.
Yeah.
So I'm always flipping that coin, but it's the same with a lot of my mates. Like, on the Power podcast, Alex and Sam, I made like 3 references to Dragon Ball Z, and no one got them. I was like, oh man. Yes, so they are basically they conquer planets, and if they're met with too much resistance, they eventually then go on a killing spree and murder a large percent of the population, or even they destroy their planet. And apparently Nolan, aka Omni-Man, goes to Earth to attempt to kill them, and then falls in love with Deborah, and then eventually has a kid, Mark, and then eventually Mark gains powers, and that's when it begins. Now, the reason why he killed the Guardians of the Globe is so that Earth would offer less resistance, because if Earth offers too much resistance, they'll just entirely annihilate the planet. Whereas if they just get a small crew to just mop it up, or even one or two Viltrumites, then it should be fine. Since Mark is supposed to be half Viltrumite, since he got his powers, Omni-Man informs his son that means that he is pure-blooded, meaning that despite that he is supposed to be half human, his cells are strong enough to overcompensate for them, therefore meaning that even generations down the line, his children's 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 children, as long as they all have powers, will all be considered pure-blooded Viltrumites. Because of this, he's going to live for at least a minimum of 1,000 years or more. And it turns out the older they get, the more powerful they become. And we are led to believe that Nolan, aka Omni-Man, is way over at least 40. He is quite old. So... Or at least older. So... Then begins the fight between Invincible and Omni-Man.
Mostly because Mark was like, but you love us, you love Mom, and Omni-Man went, well, yeah, kind of like a pet. You don't fuck a pet. You don't.
No, you are 100% correct, or at least you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think I understand what he was getting at. The two reasons that I think, personally, from my perspective, the reason why I think he said that was, the first one was to sort of distance himself from Deborah, because he didn't want to believe that he actually truly loved her in this, like in that sort of way. But the other reason that he wanted to bring that whole pet thing up is, he is going to live for tons and tons of years past her death. She is only a fraction of what his lifespan is, and it's the same with if we buy a pet. And as someone who has actually had a couple of dogs, and one of them passed sadly a couple of years ago, that devastates you. And dogs are, or cats, or any pets that you've had for a long time, you love them so damn much, to such a massive degree, but you know that their lives are eventually going to come to an end, and yours must continue, yours must go on. And so I think that's what Nolan was trying to say. And the other thing is, I think, as I said, he was trying to distance himself from the reality that he actually does care about her. And it's that thing of like, look, I know what I'm going to have to do, and I can't be on your mother's side for this. I have to take my planets. So yeah. Obviously, though, Mark having it that like, look, that's my mother you're talking about, and you call her a pet, and obviously, yeah. No, he doesn't. He responds.
It doesn't go well for Mark.
No, although he does his best to try and save people. Each person he saves, Omni-Man goes on the offensive and kills them, and he's doing this to prove a point of mortality. You'll survive, they'll die. You'll live on, they will eventually rot. You will be able to survive this, that, and the other. They will completely turn to mush. Watch. And he goes on the offensive. He kills and kills and kills. And the worst one is he throws Mark into a city, and he can't stop. And he smashes through buildings, and he kills people through the impact. And he has to attempt to save this family, this mother and child. And eventually the entire building comes down, and there's nothing but the mother's hand left. And that definitely breaks a thing in him.
And he tries, but then Omni-Man grabs him by his fucking head, smashes him into the sub. Oh my god!
The first thing that I thought was a bit overkill. Show, uh, Mr. Invincible, the show. Why? Why go so far? I mean, this seemed a bit much. Like, the first thing that I thought was, I didn't think, good lord, that's a lot of deaths. I thought, jeez. Like, I actually had the reaction of a laugh. And I don't think that's really what the show intended for me to do. I mean, it's
I don't.
gruesome, but
I
it was a bit much.
Yeah, but I think that's another thing. I was like horrified by it. I didn't laugh, you psycho. Um, I was definitely like, oh my god, what the? First of all, Mark survived that. Impossible. He's not Omni-Man.
Yeah, although to be
That train
fair,
would have killed him.
I don't know, because to be fair, he does get smashed into cars and cars smashed into him a lot and he's fine. So
Yeah,
I'll let it
that's
slide,
true.
considering it wasn't like someone who had ridiculous strength and it was made out of like some kind of like probably star metal or something.
Yeah, but yeah, it was definitely one of those moments of just pure. It was a meat blender. It
It was
was
horrifying. It was gruesome.
yeah,
As I said, the reason why I laughed was I was thinking this is a bit overboard and this is a bit over the top. But at the same time, I was just like,
yeah,
I feel so bad for Mark because of one reason, and that's he's not seeing
he's seeing that.
he's not seeing the mortality. He's being used as a weapon. Like, no, that's awful. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
imagine being
and
flung around like a nunchuck and smashing your skull against someone, but you survive, and every chunk of flesh is ripped apart from someone else's body, and meanwhile you're still alive, and you're the very thing that is the tool of death. Like, he was literally placed in front of a train. As the train goes through, they go through the train, and he goes through every single person in that train. And there's nothing he can
yeah,
do. There's nothing he can do, and it just
it was really bad.
yeah. Although
And the
quite
huh?
quite well staged, quite well done. I I have to be honest. Uh, I'd say the art was quite okay in that moment. Obviously, when the entire area gets destroyed, you see a lot of CGI, which is always jarring in 2D animation. But I think
Yeah, very much so.
that train scene was done quite well. I have to say.
Yeah, but can I just before we get to the part where everybody sobs like a little bitch,
Okay.
can we point out that literally nobody tried to save Mark? I mean, they like threw jets at him, or at Omni-Man. But
Hmm.
then after that, it's like, all right, kids, pack it up. There's nobody else. When we're the heroes of the globe are like, what the
I
fuck?
like how even
you
they
know?
go like, "There's no one else that can compete with that." Like Invincible could beat all of us, and Omni Man is beating his ass right now. Like, there's no one. Like, who else is there to call? There is literally no one. Omni Man on his own, fair enough, he took a lot of damage and a lot of beatings, but on his own, he was able to kill the 7 of these dudes. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying, like, literally after, oh, the jets didn't work. Okay, rip the kid. Hope he survives. And God, then they get to the fucking hill.
Oh
Man,
yes. So Mark saves a guy from a jet, and then Omni Man just
well,
immediately like shotgun blasts his head off with his palm to his skull.
I was talking about when we're after the train scene, like, starts throwing, or like they get
Oh
to a mountain or
yes.
whatever, and the scene everybody's been memeing about, but I'm like, oh my fucking god, this is the worst because Omni-Man just starts. Mark is in a crater. He's bloody already, and Omni-Man gets on top of him, and he's like, what's another 17 more years? As he's, like, crunching in Mark's face. And
Yeah.
as he's pummeling his son's face, he suddenly gets, like, a flashback.
Yes, of
As
this.
he's...
Well, you know what triggers it, don't you? Because he punches his face in, and then he's missing a couple of his front teeth, and he looks like when he was
Yeah!
7 years old. And so, because when he's 7 years old, he's missing one of his front teeth, and it's like during a baseball game, and he's like, I don't understand why I can't just fly up and watch it from the sky. I'd have a much better time. I was like, that's not what humans do, and you have to pretend to be human because that's not normal, and people will wander, and people will stare, and people will be afraid. And he goes, I don't understand why I have to watch this. I don't understand why I have to come. It's like, come on, we made this kid, and everything is like, you know, he loves you with all of his heart, and you know, we should too. You know, it's like, and I know I do, but do you, sort of thing. And it's like, when he finally sees that he hits that baseball, he then realizes that he's doing the human thing of watching his son do well at something, do something, excelling, and he realizes, that's what I need to put my faith in. That's what I need to put my time and effort in. That I actually enjoy him having this human life. And I think that was really good. But I have to say, after all of this, the sheer strength and show of Omni-Man's Viltrumite Titan-esque power, being basically a god amongst the humans, destroying Mark in several different locations, killing hundreds of people. And
it was in the thousands.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. No, dominates. He absolutely dominates that fight. There's no fighting back. And he's beating in his face, and there's practically, like, almost dead. And he goes, thousands of years later, what will you have left? No one else will be alive. No one else will be remaining. And he just cuts him down with only a few words. He goes, I'd have you. I'd have you, Dad. And...
Yeah, but it's not even... It was so, like... It was hard to understand him, and I was, like, kind of choking up, because he's, like, choking on his own blood at this point, trying to get that message to his dad, who just wrecked his shit. And Omni-Man finally has a conflict of, oh, maybe I shouldn't, you know, murder my kid, and flies away.
Did you notice the tears?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw tears. I'm just saying, fuck that guy.
Oh no, absolutely. I want to point out that, like, it does create a form of humanity in him, but I'm not saying that anything that he does is justified. In fact, there is no ounce of it. Like, they could very well come back with the whole thing of, like, oh, he will eventually be someone that fights alongside Invincible. I don't think that will ever excuse what he did. As for that, I think, in all honesty, it's that whole thing of humanity basically won because they had a protector all along. Because Deborah instilled that inside of him. It's that, do you think that just because that you can fight and destroy and kill with barely much of even a flick of your finger, does that make you better than anyone else? Because as what happens, like, get inside, and he goes, make me. And she goes, does that make you feel big? Does that make you feel powerful, that you know that I can't physically make you do anything now because you're such a powerful Viltrumite? And then he realizes how much of an asshole he's being to his human mother who has no powers. And she goes, you know, I just wanted you to stay human, because not because I didn't want you to have powers, not because I didn't want you to experience this, but because I didn't want you to leave me, because you and your dad can now fly and have such power, but I'm the one who's left on the ground. I'm the one who's, you know, left when you guys go. And it then ends with the whole fight between both Omni-Man and Invincible being this showdown, but it's actually just a one-sided fight, and it's that thing of it is that literal thing of big man, you know, beating up on a kid who's barely even got his powers, and he technically gets the moral victory because he then says like, I won't fight you, I won't kill you, not only because I can't, but because that I don't want to lose you. Even though that you are a horrible person, even though that you've killed thousands upon thousands of people, some of which were most definitely just trying to do the right thing by other people, I still think of you as the person who raised me for the last 17 years. And that is a powerful message. That, like, technically what his mother instilled in him is the very lesson that he basically carries to almost his grave by the end of it. That is a hill, or
Yeah.
should I say mountain, that he nearly does die on.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy shit. But yeah, I just wanted to yell, fuck Nolan. He's a piece of... But now I have questions like what's gonna happen with the, bigger, badder guys who won't leave.
Yeah, I
Just
mean, that he might very well be going back to Viltrum or one of their colonies and bringing some of the bigger baddie ones, bringing an army, bringing even a squadron of Viltrumites, and there's no guarantee that they'll be able to defend the world against them. Especially if Invincible is very much still quite vincible.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. God. Earth is fucked in that world.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's nothing saving them. They also show the Flaxons. At the end of the 8th episode, they show them. They're getting ready and gearing up. They're gonna come back at some point,
I
probably
thought
in
he
season 2.
killed all. I thought Omni-Man killed all of them.
Probably not. He either destroyed everything on their planet, and there just so happened to be a colony off planet, off world, or he just destroyed an entire city. Like, we don't know if he destroyed a whole planet or if he destroyed a city.
True. And then also the Martians getting eaten. It's a whole thing.
Assimilated, yeah, with squid starro things.
There's a lot to unpack, and I gotta feed my cats. So
No, that's fair enough. Well, I mean, either way, I think we covered pretty much everything.
yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for letting me kind of get confused and still upset about the show. This was an introduction season, so I'm holding out hope for the next one because, like, they kind of show you a little bit about everybody's backstory, but there's still a lot of questions.
I don't think they handled the Black Samson gaining his powers or losing his powers thing very well. Like, oh,
Yeah.
You don't have powers. Okay. Are we ever going to find out exactly how he lost them? What exactly were the powers? What exactly he did? No? Oh, he got them back. What are they? How did he get them back?
Doesn't show.
Cool. Alright. Bye.
Yeah.
So, either
Also,
way.
robot. Dude, yeah, it's a whole thing.
We could go on for hours.
Yeah.
I was actually going to say I would recommend the show as if you were a fan of any kind of animated thing. It is not for kids. I will say this: it's not for kids. If you're under the age of, I'm gonna say, if you're under the age of 16 or 18, do not watch this. If you are, definitely
it
give it a
kind of
try.
reminds me of The Boys.
It is basically the animated version of The Boys, but from the other side. Instead of PR campaigns and trying to take down rapey Superman, it's instead just clean old evil Superman, but his kid is trying to actually be a good hero. So
Yeah, that's true. I do recommend the show. Although, if anyone could explain to me why they sent the demon back to hell, that'd be great. Okay, thanks.
okay,
The
So
detective was on it. The detective was on
they,
it.
I think it's because they already knew the answer, but they didn't want him to find the proof and then out it to the world, because everyone would then believe him once he outed it. Because as Deborah's found, anytime that he found information or anything like that, it would always come out that he would eventually be the one who would be, oh, he's a scandalous demon, he's just a bad guy. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, turns out the bad guy demon had a point. It actually was true. He wouldn't lie, because why would he lie? Because he's a demon. You know, that's silly. He's actually telling the truth, and he just wants to be absolved of all of his sins because he's a demon.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, they wanted to keep it a secret, sure, but the dude was right, and nobody listened to him, and then a lot of people died because they were like, "You get back in your hole, sir. You get back in the hole."
Just as
You know?
we know from a lot of things to do with government situations and a lot of things that have been going on, especially over the last 2 years, either in fiction or in the real world, just because you're right doesn't mean that you won't be punished for being right.
I'm still upset. I hope they bring him back.
I do as well, but only just because I like the voice act. No, I'm lying. That's not the only reason. I did actually kind of like him. He was quite funny. He reminded me of Etrigund from DC
Yes.
Universe, only didn't rhyme, and I kind of prefer that.
Yeah, definitely hated rhyming. So it was nice to have someone that was like just simple words. You
Yes.
have a lovely home. Goodbye.
Yes, yeah. Rather than going like off on like some kind of like iambic pentameter like tangent to eventually rhyme home with bone.
Phone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not even rhymed. Did not even
This
rhyme. All right.
detective is a dog with a bone. Now I must go. You have a lovely home.
Okay, okay. I see what you did. All
Anyway,
right. I feel like we should end it there.
absolutely.
We're
Well,
getting weird.
thank you very much for CookieSwagga to coming on to this. I don't know if it will be a one-off thing where we sort of talk about slash review shows, but thank you very much anyway. At some point, I would like to have you and potentially another guest on for a power podcast where we actually talk about the powers that were actually introduced into that show. If you'd like to join that
Yeah,
at some point.
I would love to. The powers I will be like, yeah, they go boom or something like that. But I'll be there.
That's good enough. Well, thank you very much, and well, to everyone who is listening, if you like this, definitely check out my channel at Animite Tales. I'm also on Twitter at Animite Tales. Cookie is also on Twitter if you'd like to follow her at CookieSwagga.
Yes, at CookieSwagga, and you can also find me on TikTok at CookieSwagga. You might also know a name from RuneScape, CookieSwagga, and I'll say that you don't. Bye.
Well, there we go. If also you'd like to help me and or anyone else in the specific area of me in the terms of the Animite Tales project, as I'm currently doing a tabletop RPG based around superpowers, known as Animite Tales, where you can play as certain kinds of characters and build your own. Customizability is very much a thing that you can do. Definitely check that out, as we have a Patreon, and there are different tiers where you can actually pay and support us, but also there are different tiers that allow you to actually be able to add things to the game, and myself or one of my admins will be able to contact you, or you'll be able to contact us, and you'll be able to make an item that will be placed into the game's modules or rulebooks, or make a NPC slash
Ah.
boss. So that's a thing that you can do. Thank you very much
Ooh.
for listening. Take care and goodbye.
Bye-bye.